All right, guys, let's get to work with today's topic now. First of all, let me share my screen. Make sure all my systems are going okay here. Share screen. Share screen. Let's take a couple of minutes to review and talk about some of the stuff that we've been doing up till now so we can keep everything clear in our mind. We can keep organized. Just looking for my PowerPoint here. Where did it go? I had it a minute ago. All right, there we go. Now, I think that I have a couple of new class members in the class. I know a few of my classes, we have some new people coming in due to the way the registration procedure works. So I'm going to be having a special meeting, right? Maybe I'll make a special email to get all my new class members from all my classes onboarded and introduced. We'll take care of you guys later. But for right now, we're going to go and do a general introduction as well. So if there is a new class member here, and I think there are 2 new members, because I teach this class 3 times each week, and I think among those 3 sessions, I have about 7 or 8 new people coming in. We're just joining us now. And I'm pretty sure that in our Saturday class, I have 2 people who are kind of net new to the class. So welcome. And you guys are going to get a good review now. And everybody, we're going to do some review as well here. So let's start to think in a very general sense, what has been the purpose of our course, right? If we look at the course outline, they use a bunch of big fancy words, but here really is what it amounts to. And I'm going to spend 5 minutes to do some whiteboarding, some drawing on a piece of paper, and we'll put the image up here when we're done as well. But you can't do something until you understand what it is you're trying to do, right? You might not understand how it's going to work, but at least you need to understand what's the purpose of what you're doing, or the knowledge won't percolate into your brain. So let's take a couple of minutes to get ourselves organized on that. And if I have any questions, if anybody wants any general review topics on any specific things, now would be a good time to ask about that. However, I don't see any comments so far, so let's carry on. So I'm going to turn on my screen sharing tool here. Sure, my external cam is plugged in. Just have to find some paper to draw on. Hang on.
व्यतीत भाई अभी तो तुम पोस्ट बन देता
Audio level test. Yeah, guys, I'm not sure if that network outage affected anybody but me. The Zoom network, at least in my area, went down for a while. So technology systems are subject to technology problems. We might have that problem sometimes. It could happen. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We're back now. So let me continue where I was before. Before the interruption happened, we were talking about some general review, and this is for everybody's benefit, but particularly for new class members who may be joining us for the first time. And I'm keeping my eye on the chat box, and if there's any questions. So you guys who might be new and maybe you're not familiar with how a Zoom class works or something, maybe you haven't done it too many times before. So you should notice on your screen something called a chat box. And I welcome and encourage you. You can enter questions here, right, at any point. So you got any questions, just enter them there and we'll address them. Anyway, let me go back. Hopefully we won't have too many more problems today. I know the last couple of days it was pretty bad. The network was a bit unstable, so hopefully today will be a little bit better. We'll find out how that goes. Anyway, control what you can control and don't worry about the rest, I say. Now, also for the benefit of our new members here, we have our Google Classroom, which I'm sure you guys all know about because you're taking 6 courses and all the instructors use the same thing here. So here is our learning agenda for today. Here's what we're going to be working on for right now. And last week, we started to introduce the topic of data analytics and Power BI. And I showed you how that works. And I know people get quite interested in that topic, right? They really like to hear about it. So I gave you some videos to watch. Now today, we're going to go back and do something, touch on something we did earlier, which is programming, because I know we've done some Java programming here. And now we're going to learn to program in another language called Swift. Why? Well, a couple of reasons. Number one is that after data analytics, I want to introduce another kind of information system, because here in this class, we're here to talk about information systems. And you members who are new, so if anybody is just joining us for the first time, it would be a very good idea if you went and studied the course outline. Maybe we'll go through it briefly right now, just so we kind of keep oriented where we are. Let's write down here way at the beginning. Yes, so new class members, pay attention. There's a couple of good documents you need to know about. One is our course outline, and the other is our weekly learning plan. But let's talk about the course outline for right now. There is also something here, which is the academic week schedule, and that's the same for all of your classes. So that tells us if we have any days off or something. However, here in our Saturday class, I don't think we have any, I think the Monday class last week, due to the family day in Ontario, they had a day off, but I think we don't have that, so. I'm just going to go back and finish showing you the course outline. What was from what the? Oh yeah, hang on, it's before. So you guys who are new, my new class members, please go and read this. Basically, what this says is 5 things. I mean, I'm not going to read through the whole thing now because we're going to make a summary and we're going to remind ourselves what we've been talking about up till now. So let's go and do that. Hopefully, I'm just hoping my computer doesn't crash again. But anyway, I guess stuff like that happens. So I'm going to stop my video there and open my OBS. All right, so guys, I'm now going to point my camera down at a piece of paper. We're going to draw some pictures and images, and this is sort of like equivalent of a whiteboard, right? And once again, the second I say something that you're not really understanding, just jump in the chat box and we'll take care of it. But here's an overview. Here's what we've been talking about in this class, and here's where we are going. And I'll copy and paste this into your PowerPoint when we're done. So let's do that now. So now when you read the course outline, oops, I have to be careful to not pull any of these cables the wrong way. I don't want to make an interruption to my network. All right. So our course title says Information Systems. What does it say? Because systems analysis and design. So obviously we're talking about information systems here. There's other kinds of systems like financial systems and so on. But here we're here to talk about information systems and analysis and design. That's the title of the course. If you don't believe me, go and look at the course outline. That's what it says. But now let's understand what these concepts mean. Well, information systems are what? And my experienced class members, if you were here for a while, if we were here in class, I would make some class discussion, but it doesn't really work too well online. And we only have 3 hours for this class each week, which isn't really enough to start with. So an information system, and these are all final exam questions, by the way. An information system consists of what? Some programming, and some data, right? So in our first portion of class, sorry, I didn't write that too neat. Let me write it again neater. So in the first couple of weeks of class, we started learning to program some Java, and we started to implement an information system for the Monopoly game. And you guys who are joining us late, we'll give you a link out to the class videos. You can go and watch them. But we started to learn a little bit of Java. So that was our first experience to programming. At least here, maybe some of you have done some programming before. And then we looked at our course outline and we realized that it says information design. Well, the design would be the thing about programming. And database. Now, what about the analysis? So to analyze something means to figure out how it's working. And whenever I hear the word analysis, I think about a scientist, like maybe a chemist with a test tube or something, or an electron microscope studying some, I don't know, like a little blade of grass or something to find out how it works. So our tool for analysis here is we've been learning unified modeling language and unified process. So that's one of our big learning outcomes here. And I have a lot of good material, and new class members will make a special video and kick that out to you to catch it up to you. But analysis means to study an existing system, and design means to build a new system. And we analyze using unified process and UML, and we build information systems using programming and data skills. Now, some of the data skills we've started studying is Power BI, and we did that last week. So you guys who are joining us new, you haven't missed too much because we just started that last week. So what we're going to do today is learn another programming language called Swift. Why are we going to learn Swift? Because the next thing we need to think about is what are the kinds of information systems that exist in the world. Guys, every single one of these things I'm saying right now, I hope you have a pen and a piece of paper. If I can write them down, I think you can as well. And writing stuff down is the best way to memorize it. So what kinds of information systems do we have in the world? Well, there are web-based systems. So for example, Amazon.com, right? Or websites or e-commerce websites, HTML. So that's a very big kind of information system. Most of the stuff you probably buy these days, you might be buying it online because of this whole coronavirus lockdown thing. Another kind of information system we have are databases. And I haven't really talked too much about databases yet. That's coming. Although our stuff with Power BI, our data analysis skills does relate to database and SQL. So we are going to make an assignment in a future class with databases and SQL. We're also going to have an assignment with Power BI. We'll probably do that together in class next week. As much as possible, I try to make the assignments things we do in class because that way we're here and you don't have to spend more time outside of class. I know you've got a bunch of other courses to take and stuff. So another kind of information system we have is databases. And a third kind we have is mobile, like mobile application development, phones, access apps on your phones. So we will be talking a little bit about mobile application development. I'll teach you how to make a simple iPhone app. And to do that, we need to learn the language of mobile application development, which is Swift. Now, Java is object-oriented, and we've already got a little bit of exposure to Java. And before we're done, before the last week of this class, maybe in 2 weeks, we will go back and I will demonstrate. I know you guys, for the most part, there are some exceptions. Most of you haven't had too much programming exposure up till now. So I will write the entire Java program for the Monopoly game to model the Monopoly game. And you can observe me doing it and learn how it's done that way. But to build ourselves up to doing that, today we're going to start getting exposed to another language called Swift. Because seeing something from a few different angles helps you to understand it better. So by seeing programming in Swift, and you've already done some programming in Java, when we come back to Java, then it will lock it in, and it will very quickly enable you to understand how we can model a business domain. So that's the analysis, right? So we used unified process and UML to model the Monopoly game. And then we started to write some Java code to play the Monopoly game, but we didn't do a complete implementation. We did sort of a level 1 implementation. And I promised you that I would go back and I would do the complete implementation for you. I would role model doing it in class, and we're building up to that. So first of all, we're going to see how we would do it in Swift, and then we will do it in Java. Now, one third language you're going to get exposed to here is called Python. Python, and you might have heard of Python. It's pretty popular. Because in our course here in Information Systems Analysis and Design, we have two basic concerns, and you should remember this. My class members who have been here from the beginning, if you don't remember what I'm talking about, honestly, that's not good, because I speak slowly and I repeat myself many times, and I really hope you're paying attention. So the two kinds of things we can do with information systems, the two ways we model an information system are we model behaviors, right? We model the doing part, and we model the data. And in terms of data, we've already started to get some idea about Power BI, not a lot, right? We're going to come back to it. But we've at least started to use some Power BI to model some real estate data. And the other thing we're going to do with data is learn some Python skills. Starting in 3 weeks, we'll work on Python for a couple of weeks, because there are kinds of data modeling situations we can get into which you cannot do analytically with Power BI. You have to do computationally. So tools like Power BI and also SQL is another one I'll show you, is good for analytical, when you can do a kind of an algorithm, when you can provide a written set of instructions on how to analyze the data. So analytical type modeling is good for Power BI, but sometimes we just have to kind of brute force it. We have to look at all of the data one at a time and implement our own algorithms. So this is good for computational. Data analysis. All right, guys, so now we're going to carry on, and this is sort of just a big picture to show you where we are and what we've done and where we're going. So what are we going to do today? Today and next week, we're going to learn some Swift programming. That's our current requirement, to learn some Swift programming. Why? Because it will reinforce, it will get us to several goals that we have here. It will reinforce our knowledge of object-oriented programming, which we started with our study of Java. And also it will get us to our goal of being able to build some mobile application development, because Swift was primarily and firstly invented by Apple as a language for iPhone application development. So once I teach you some Swift, I will then be able to action on our goal of teaching you how to write some simple iPhone mobile application development, iPhone apps. And also, because Swift is an object-oriented language, when I go back and show you Java, you will take our knowledge we developed in Swift and you'll be able to understand Java more quickly. Our goal in our class here is to do information systems analysis and design. The design is done by writing databases and programming. The analysis is done with unified process and UML. So that's a little bit of a high level overview. Experienced class members who have been here since the beginning will remember. Oh, actually, I have some chat comments coming in. I didn't see them. I'm going to go and see about my chat comments now. Good morning, sir. This is both for technical and non-technical. Yes. So Joy T's question now, for the beginning, for the benefit of new class members who are just joining us. On day one, when I said I was going to teach you some Java programming, I had two responses. Half the class were very excited and they wanted to learn Java, and the other class were afraid. They were frightened. They thought Java was going to hurt them. They were screaming and crying and, ah! Audio test. I had another network interruption. Anyway, let's keep going here. So if the network interrupts, just go to the Google Classroom, read the course description, read the PowerPoint, just sort of keep busy for a couple of minutes. So anyway, before my meeting interrupted, I was answering a very good question from one of our students, and they were asking about technical and non-technical stream. So just so you guys understand that, at the very beginning of class, on the first day when I was talking about this stuff, I got a bunch of students very frightened, very scared. Apparently somebody told them at some point in their life, if they try to write a Java program, it was going to kill them. Like, I honestly don't know why people were so scared of Java. Everybody else in the world wants to learn Java. But in this class, apparently a bunch of students are convinced that Java is a very bad thing. So for assignment 1, I made because I had actually it was very interesting. Half of the students were getting mad at me because I wasn't teaching Java fast enough, and the other half were mad at me because they didn't want to learn Java. So because I'm a nice guy and I didn't want to make people mad at me, I gave 2 streams of assignment for the first assignment. One stream was to just, I don't know, sort of like a 10-year-old child or something, go and draw some pictures and write some stories about technology. And the other one for the people who actually want to get a job, I gave them the technical stream, which is writing some Java code. So everything I'm saying right now is applicable to both streams, because honestly, if you cannot understand what I'm talking about here, and I'm not saying this to be disrespectful to anybody, I'm saying it as a parent who, between my 2 children, I spend about $20,000 a year on paying for their university. And I'm not sure what your families are paying for you, but I'm sure it's a pretty good amount of money. So to answer Joy T's question, if anybody here cannot understand anything I've just said, if you don't know what Amazon.com is, if you cannot understand the idea that a business works by knowing things and by doing things, and the doing part we model with writing programs, right? So this part we process it by writing programs. So this is the programming part, and this is the data modeling part. If you cannot understand this, then my advice would be go to the office and see if you can cancel out of the program and get a refund, because it honestly, this should not be very complicated, because the whole point of a college degree, at least here in Ontario, is it assures the employer that the person who's holding this degree has the ability to process complex information. Because especially right now in the modern world where so many companies are downsizing and laying people off, if the only thing you can do, and I'm not being, guys, I'm just being so careful to navigate. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But if you cannot handle some kind of algorithmic skills, some sort of data analysis or IT skills, I really don't know what hope there is for you. I don't. I'm sorry to say that, but you're not going to have a very happy life. Now, the other side of it is, I think in a lot of the cases, people are just lazy, right? They figured out that if they just sit there and like make little painful noises and little crying noises and say it's too hard, the teacher is going to give them something simpler to do, which I actually did, because I'm being paid to teach you guys this stuff. I'm not being paid to motivate you. If you don't want to learn it, it's your money. Do whatever you want with it. But the students who are here intent to learning this stuff, this is what we're going to do now. So anyway, any other questions? Let me jump back to my chat comments and see if I have some other questions here. Not so far. Oh, I see. So Sukhmeen is saying there are students from business stream here. Then how will they do this programming? You're right, you can't. I'm tired of having this discussion. So if you're a business stream student and if you don't want to do programming, first of all, the course outline does not say anything about business stream, right? Here's what the course outline says, Sukhmeen. Pay attention. Let's look. I'm not sharing my screen. Oh, really? Interesting. Sorry. All right. So guys, I wasn't sharing my screen before. I'll repeat this a little bit here. So I was showing you this stuff. This is what we talked about before the network interruption. Now, Sukhmeen is saying, how are the business stream students going to handle this? All right. Well, good question. Let's go and look at something. If we go here and look at the course outline, which is kind of what I have to go by. Can Python be used? No, Simmerjit. Python is good for data analysis. Python cannot be used for mobile app development. Mobile app development is Swift, pretty much. I mean, you can use Java on Android, but due to limitations of time, I'm just going to be teaching you some iOS and Swift. You could use Java for mobile app development, but not Python. All right, so let's go back and answer my question about from Sukhmeen. Let's see about our course outline here. So Sukhmeen, here's as simple as it is. If I ever get to the bottom of this thing, I put so much stuff here. All right, there we go. What the course outline says I'm supposed to teach you is this. Developing information systems using the software development lifecycle, that's unified process. Describing different types of information systems, website, mobile app, right? I mean, that's programming and database. That's what it is. Here's the stuff you're supposed to know at the end of this course. Apply information technology to run businesses better. Apply problem solving skills. Apply a basic knowledge of project management. Well, unified process teaches you how to do project management for IT. So I'm sort of covering that by teaching you unified process. And here's all the stuff you're supposed to know at the end of this course. Apply technology to enhance business operations, which is also what point 2 is saying, just in slightly different words, interdependence of the business and the information technology. Apply problem solving skills, basic knowledge of project management, and develop strategies for personal and professional development. So Sukhmeen, if anybody can give me a better idea, I'm happy to listen to it. I will. If you guys can see something I'm not seeing, this tells me I'm supposed to teach you programming, data handling skills, and information analysis, information systems analysis. So if you simply cannot handle programming, my suggestion would be go to the office. So Sukhmeen, here would be my advice to you. And I don't know if it's good advice or bad advice. It's the best thing I can think of to say. Call the office or call or email the office on Monday morning and see if you can get your money back and withdraw from the program. Because if you cannot handle this stuff, a college education is not for you. Not everybody is meant for college, right? Some people with skilled trades, right? You can be a welder or an electrician or a diesel mechanic. There's nothing wrong with that. My father was a welder and a diesel mechanic for intercity truck lines in Mississauga till the day he retired. He was great at it. He made a lot of money. He enjoyed doing that. He was not an academic guy. My father would not be able to sit in a calculus class and listen to how math theorems work or something. Not everybody is good for every job, right? That's as simple as it is. So email the office, see if you can withdraw from the program and maybe get some refund on tuition. If this program is definitely too hard for you, then just withdraw. That's all I can think of to say. All right, so for the rest of us, let's carry on. So I'm going to clean up my screen so that all of this is a kind of a way of introducing the fact that we're now going to talk about another programming language called Swift. So let's jump in and do that. Let's see, we're going to do, and actually I'm going to grab a screenshot of this for our PowerPoint as well. All right, it's 8:55. Let's just take a couple of minutes to get ourselves set up with the simplest possible Swift program, and then we'll take a little break, and then we're going to spend the rest of today doing Swift programming. And then next week, we're going to do more Swift programming. The week after that, we're going to go back and
Sir, can you answer my question? I've sent you on the chat.
oh, let me check here. Sorry, I missed it. Sorry, which was your question? Which one is your?
Can you update us about our assignment?
About what?
About assignment, sir. About Monopoly, which we have submitted.
Oh, I see. You know, I missed that one. Okay, let me go and check what's happening there. Yeah, I think what happened when my computer rebooted, I cannot see the previous chat comments, right? I had an interruption. My computer rebooted when I was out of the meeting for a while. I cannot see the previous chat comments. In fact, maybe you typed that in when I was not in the meeting. You can, oh, just retype it here. Update assignments based on Monopoly. What corrections can we? Yes, I'm going to get to that, Vishav. Not today. What we're going to do today is the Swift, and then I'll send back some feedback on the Monopoly, on the Java code for Monopoly, and then we're going to amp that up and do a complete Monopoly game. So I will get to that, but not at this minute. My plan is to work on the Swift programming first, and then on the basis of that, you'll have, because Swift is actually easier to understand object-oriented. Then I will give you some, then we'll send out a solution, right? I will develop next week a solution for the Monopoly game, and then you'll get your feedback from there. And that will be easier to do after we've done our Swift, because I've done this stream of teaching for about 5 years. This seems to be the best thing. So Vishav, your feedback is coming, but we have to do what we're doing now first. Yeah, that's the way we're going to do it. All right. Yeah. If anybody else typed in any comments, if I did not answer them, it's because when my computer rebooted, when you come back into the meeting, you don't see the previous comments. So it's not that I'm ignoring you. It's just that I didn't see it. So just type it in again, or just open the mic and ask it. All right. So let's carry on. Thank you, Vishav, for the question. That's a good question for helping me to introduce my next topic.
No problem.
Now let's go here, and just waiting for my computer to save something. All right, let's open our next material. So Swift is a programming language. It's like Java, but it's intended primarily to work with iPhone application development. Having said that, you can still use it to run general purpose programs, which All right, guys, I just had another system interruption, but anyway, hopefully that'll stop happening. Let's go back to, I'm going to give us a break in a couple of minutes, but first I just want to get us writing with a very simple Swift program, then we can play with that when we come back. So here I have to share my screen, so share screen. And I guess that's all okay. I don't know why that's happening. Anyway. I'm sharing my screen. I'm sharing my mic. Yeah, there's my mic level test. Am I going through the right mic? Yep. All right, good. So open my PowerPoint again. You couldn't find it, really. Why can't you find it? Oh, I see what's happening. Okay, I have to turn my Dropbox back on. All right, to begin with, to do programming, we need an IDE. When we were programming Java, we used the Java Development Kit. Now we're going to be using an online IDE called Replit. So I'm going to give everybody a little task now to go and set yourself up with an account on Replit. It's free and it's pretty nice. I like it. Does the job. And you can program many languages here, including Java. Pretty cool. So everybody now, go and set this up. Go and make an account here. In fact, let's combine this with a little break. This might take a couple of minutes. So set yourself up over here, right? So just go to go to sign up and sign yourself up, and we'll resume. We're going to combine this with a little break now. Let's give it a break until 9:20, 15-minute break. When we come back, we'll carry on and we'll see how we make simple programs with Swift. So anyway, we'll resume in 15 minutes. On break, resume in 15 minutes. Guys, I'm just marshaling up your workbook here. Hang on. I'm just going to send up some stuff for you to start working on. All right, here we go. So now I guess everybody is set up. Everybody has their account set up on Replit. Now we're going to start to introduce some basic programming concepts. And if this is too complicated for you, it's okay. I'll still give you a passing mark. When we get to the assignment, I'll just ask you to like write a little 500-word essay on why programming is important or something. In fact, I can say any of you guys who don't want to learn programming can just leave the class, right? Because from now until end of class, I'm going to be talking about programming. And if you've already decided that you're not capable of learning programming, then probably wasting your time being here. Having said that, the other side of it is you might actually like programming if you gave it a chance. And if you don't give yourself a chance to learn about it, then there might be something good that you're not going to find out about. See what I'm saying? You never know when something might be your only chance to learn about something, right? You should never shortchange yourself. You should never prejudge and say, I don't like this or I'm not good at it, because maybe if you tried it a little bit, you might actually like it. And guys, they tell us we're not supposed to frighten the students, but I think you're adults, so I think maybe you deserve to know this. The world as you have known it up till now, and as your parents have known it, might soon be changing a lot. We don't even know how much longer this is going to keep going. In the last couple of days of the Roman Empire, right, 2,000 years ago, the Roman Empire was the kind of key thing in the world. They were the ones running everything. And then in less than about 2 or 3 years, they collapsed. And it seems that the world civilization we've been enjoying up till now might not be around much longer. In fact, every morning when I wake up, I think, well, we managed one more day, didn't we? Russia has just invaded the Ukraine. What does this have to do with your life, I hear you asking? It could lead to nuclear war, right? There could be, because Russia and the United States are both nuclear powers. And Russia might launch a cyber attack against the United States, which would affect Canada as well, which means in a couple of days, we may not have internet. And if there's a nuclear war, well, that would ruin everybody's life really bad. But even if it doesn't, this might put the world economy into a very big collapse, maybe for generations. So the reason I'm telling you all of this is that when you're in a situation where everything is messed up, you never know what might be the one skill you might have that might be of some value, right? I'm honestly thinking that in the worst possible case scenario, who's ever left might need people like me who can teach whoever's left some basic IT skills to keep things going. So I would encourage you to keep your eye on the news a little bit and realize that this is no joke. This is a really bad thing that's going on, and it could spill over to Canada or United States or India or any place where you are. So if having seen all of this, you still think that you would be happier going back to bed or maybe watching a movie on Netflix, that's fine. I promise you I will not take attendance today. I will not do anything to punish anybody who's not in class, because with a lot of hardship, like with, well, not hardship, but with like a lot of passion and a lot of internal effort, I'm working very hard to teach you things that took me 20 or 30 or 40. I'm 60 years old. I've been playing with computers since I was 15. In the early 1970s, when nobody knew what a computer was, I was buying little parts with my, parents give their children some little allowance money to go to a movie or something with their friends on the weekend. I went and bought like little electronic parts and I built simple computer circuits, and I kind of just pulled myself up a little bit at a time. It wasn't like now where you can just go and watch videos on YouTube. So anyway, this is what I'm sharing with you. If you simply don't want to learn it, see you next week. Have a nice week. Whatever you do, enjoy it, because you never know when might be the last day of something, right? Anyway, that's my little dad talk to you for right now. Let's go back to our studying here. All right, so now we have access to REPL, which is a place to write code. So pay attention to me now. I'm going to check my systems are recording. Yeah, I'm recording. So here's how we write a little program in Swift. So I'm going to go here. Actually, where's my light pen? Ah, Peanut, did you take my light pen? Where did it go? The funniest thing is I just had it like 10 minutes ago. All right, I'll use my other thing. I'll use my on-screen drawing tool. Guys, pay attention, and ladies, pay attention. Pay attention. I always wonder, I don't know why, for the last few days I've been thinking that people who lived in Rome, right, the greatest city in the world at the time, 2,200 years ago, in their last days, what did they think? When public infrastructure started collapsing, when the soldiers were gone because they'd all been killed by the invading Vandals, did it occur to them to think our way of life is gone and for the next thousands of years the world will be in a dark age? Or did they just have, because there's something human beings suffer from which is called normalization bias. That is, when very bad things start happening, people tell themselves this is just temporary, it's going to go away, and tomorrow it'll be better. I gotta tell you guys, I don't think it's going to be any better. So whatever you do in these coming days and weeks, make sure it's something that's meaningful to you. And the best thing I can do is teach you guys this stuff in the hope that whatever happens to you in the future, I might say something, or I might show you something, or I might give you some idea that might be the one idea that'll pull you out of wherever you wind up falling into. Anyway, so let's go here. Now we're on replit.com. We've all made our account there. And we're going to go here and say create. And we're going to click on the plus, and we can create programs in many different languages. I actually love this. I think it's pretty cool. So let's do that. So plus, and now I'm going to look for Swift. See, there's HTML. There's something we're going to learn. There's Python. There's a lot of good stuff here. Right? Java. So we're going to say Swift. And now you can give it a name. You can give it any name you want. I like to name my stuff by the date so I can find it later. Today's the 26th. And I'm going to make mine public because I might share some of my workout with you if you want to make. Well, actually, I think I have a professional account. I pay like $3 or $4 a month so I can do slightly extra things, but that's not relevant to you. You do not have very interesting code. Like private is if you actually, because Sometimes before the tests and stuff, I develop the test questions here, and I know my students are very creative about finding my repositories. They go and search, and even though I actually tell you the test questions in class, I still think it's a little bit of an adventure for them if they can catch me out. So just to make it a little game to keep it interesting, I keep my stuff private. You don't need to do that though. Anyway, we're going to say create replit. So the idea now of the term REPL, you're going to hear that quite a bit. So REPL. So we run our program. We evaluate the operation of our program. We can print out results. And the L, to be honest, I don't really remember what it stands for right now. Oh, I guess maybe load or something, load the program. So anyway, a REPL tool is a tool that lets you quickly run program and learn how it works, right? It's not really a production grade environment. You wouldn't use it to send a finished program out to your customers. However, you're going to see that term a lot. Like you can find a Python REPL or a Java REPL or something. So this tool, replit.com, lets you play with many languages quickly. So here's the simplest possible program we could ever have. Print, and then some string. And my student who asked me before, I forget who their name was, but one student, they were asking me what the non-technical stream for this is, and there is no non-technical stream. But here's my promise to you. The exact minute that I get to something you don't understand, just jump in the chat box, or I think everybody has their mic open. So you can just open your mic, you can unmute yourself and just say, you know, Peter, I don't understand that or something, and we'll go over it again. So the exact minute I talk about something you're not totally 100% sure on, just say, Peter, don't say anything else. Just say, Peter, and I'll assume, okay, they need more clarification, and we'll zoom in. I have been doing this since before you were alive. I've been playing with computers since I was 10 years old. I've been training in computers since I was 18, when the first PC computers came out and nobody knew what to do with them. My mother brought me to her office. I didn't get paid for it. I just did it because I was interested. And I would actually show these people like how to, you know, just set up a simple Word document or something. So I guarantee that if you do not learn programming by the time I'm finished with you, it will be because of you. It will not be because of me. I know how to teach you. Whether you choose to make the effort to learn or not, I would sincerely request that you do, especially now. Because you're adults, and I'm going to speak to you like adults. And if I say anything that offends anybody, I'm going to use a little bit of harsh language now. So if you're easily offended, just turn off your speaker for the next 10 seconds. And the rest of you who are still here, the time for fucking around is over. I don't mean you personally. I mean the human race, society in general. We're really very close to something very bad. I have friends that I used to work with when I taught network security, people who work in certain areas. I'm not really supposed to talk too much about it, but I know what they work in. And I follow some of those chat rooms. I have access to them through some stuff I've done in the past. Give your full attention to whatever it is you're doing. That's the best life advice I can come up with or present with you. All right, everybody, I'm finished with my swearing now. You can come back in and we're going to go back to our class. Now, as you can see right here, this is not a particularly interesting kind of a program because it's not really doing anything very useful. So let's see if we can amp it up, and let's see if we can even maybe get close to doing something like the Monopoly game in Swift as well. And I do have a student before, and again, I'm sorry I don't remember people's names as much as I should, but somebody was asking me about feedback on your Java program, and we're going to get to there. I'll do that together, and I'll show you some good practices. but I'm going to ask you to trust me when I say that you learn programming better when you learn a couple or three languages. That's why in this course, I've chosen on Java, Swift, and Python. Python primarily as a data modeling language, Java because it's pretty popular and everybody wants to learn that as their first language, and Swift because it also supplements your Java learning and it will help us with mobile application development. And Python, you could do Python with objects. We're not going to. Python, we're just going to purely use it as a way to do data analysis, but that's not a topic for right now. So let's carry on and let's go over to our little notebook that I've made up for everybody here. Trying to see where my Dropbox link is to send this out. Here we go. In fact, I'm going to kick all of this stuff out to your Google Classroom. That's probably the best way to do it. So you can jump over there. Sometimes I send stuff out by Dropbox, but this is something I want to make sure you have access to. Maybe you even want to study it this week or something. So Swift Learning Materials. So you guys can jump over to Google Classroom, and I mean, I would suggest getting all of this stuff, but at least for right now, we're going to work on Swift Exercises Lab Notebook. That's just something I put together over time to sort of capture my experience of what seems to work well for teaching people stuff. So I'm giving you a couple of things here. This lab workbook is sort of shorter and it just gives you procedural. It doesn't really talk too much about how to do things, but it's good for lab exercises. And this one over here, Swift Exercises Lab Notebook, that's more detail. That's what we're going to go into right now. So everybody, if you like to look here on the screen, great. If you want to have this for looking on your own station, you have it. And let's carry on. So any programming language now consists of two different kinds of things, right? That's the first thing we should know about. And once again, I'm keeping my eye on the chat box. The exact second that I get to something that you don't totally agree with, maybe you think I'm wrong, that's okay. I've got a strong personality. You won't offend me. Open the mic and say, Peter, I think you're wrong. I don't think programming languages have two different kinds. And I'll go, oh, okay, well, what do you think? Bring your ideas forward and we'll talk about them. But I'm telling you what I think is true right now. I think programming languages have two different aspects. The two stuff that goes into making a programming language. In fact, you guys were really interested, and I know some people in this class are, because I've gotten emails from you where you got mad at me that I wasn't teaching Java fast enough. So for you guys, I have an extra special present, which is a lab I teach in another class on how we make our own programming language, right? There is a relatively simple set of procedures you can do. You can make your own programming language. And if you really kind of want to be on top of the game, that would be what I would suggest. So I'm going to share that with you right now. I'm not even going to charge you for it, which is odd. Usually because we live in a commercial economy, everybody wants to get paid these days. So I'm just going to give this to you for free because you're all my best students. If I can find it, that is. Let's see now. Informatics. Informatics. Actually, I'm going to share that entire thing with you. Why not? Because that's the kind of person I am. But I'll show you the exact thing here, which I'm talking about right now, which is create your own programming language. This is also stuff from when I teach at university level. So if you want to see like some university level content, there it is. Go and see it. It's going to go and double check that's the right link before I send it out. Yup, there we go. And there's the one. So you guys who are, you know, sort of want to get up there and be the team alpha, right? You want to be the top level in the world, which you should. Everybody should aspire to have big goals for themselves. In fact, I was talking with a friend of mine, Mark Thoreau. He's the academic coordinator for another college I teach at. And we were talking about the whole issue because we're both of about the same age. We're both in our 60s. And we were talking about how when we were kind of young people at around your age, there was an emphasis in society in terms of excellence, right? People wanted to be the best. They wanted to be excellent. Whereas in your generation, it seems like people are kind of shy, embarrassed. They want to keep their mouth closed. They just want to sort of get by with a minimal amount of effort. And I don't know where that came from, but I think it's very dangerous. If you guys like me, if you value anything I've told you, then decide to make a personal commitment to excellence in your own life. Whatever you do, choose to be excellent at it. Because first of all, society really needs excellence. Mediocrity is not going to pull us out of this little nosedive we've gotten into. And also, you will have a more pleasant experience at whatever you do. All right, so here's my Dropbox link for you. You can go and read through that stuff, and if you have any questions in any of it, let me know. I'll send us for another break in a couple of minutes, but let's just get through some more of this first. All right, so that's posted, good. And that is my REPL, and here is my lab notebook. So now, oh yeah, so I was just summarizing the stuff that we can have in a programming language, and we can have data, and we can have instructions, right? Those are the only two things in any programming language. Now, I'm talking about the classical von Neumann architecture. John von Neumann, smart guy in 1946, he created the model for how all modern computers work. And every computer there could ever be, whether it's the microprocessor in your Apple Watch, or whether it's your refrigerator, or the computer in your car, or your laptop, or any other computer, all modern computers work on what's called the von Neumann architecture. Except for quantum computing. Quantum computing is something else entirely, and nobody really knows how quantum computers work. We can actually build them. The problem is we don't really, even though we can build them, we don't know how to program them because nobody has come along to make a von Neumann model for quantum computing. But in terms of classical computers, meaning everything up to but not including quantum computing, the von Neumann architecture is the thing that's working here. And I'll give you a link to that as well. If you want to go and read it, it's not a part of the course outline. You don't have to, but if you desire to find out more about that, I have that here. I'll organize this stuff. Computer hardware, I think I called it. Computer hardware and programming paradigms. I'll kick this out later. I don't want it to take class time, but I do have a good presentation. Where did I put Dr. von Neumann stuff? Oh, von Neumann architecture. All right. Briefly, Dr. von Neumann in 1940s, so that's going on like 80 years ago now, the earliest computers could store data, but not programs. Every time you wanted a computer to run a different program, you had to physically rewire. They actually had cables, and you're going to see it in my presentation here. You had to change the wiring between the circuit banks in your computer. And Dr. von Neumann said, this is getting boring. He said, I'm a busy guy. I don't have time for this nonsense. So he came up with the idea of what we call the stored program concept. Just opening up. This stuff's on Dropbox. Just taking a few seconds to pull down. While I'm waiting for that to pull down, I'll tell you a story about Dr. von Neumann, which will help you to understand the kind of a mind that came up with these concepts. You might have heard of the idea of a von Neumann game. Dr. von Neumann was also a games theorist. He came up with mathematical theories about how to win at different kind of games. And if you play a von Neumann game on somebody, it means you're not playing to win, you're playing to exhaust your opponent. And gentlemen in the room, we've all had this experience with the ladies, right? So it's a couple of days, your girlfriend or your wife is not talking to you, so you do the worst possible thing you could possibly do. You shouldn't do this, but you're a guy, you're a man, so you're just kind of not that smart. So you do this, you say, honey, is something wrong? What happens when you ask your girlfriend, is something wrong? She gives you a very baleful, hateful look and says, the fact that you need to ask what's wrong is what's wrong. And then she stomps away and you're in for the silent treatment for another week. Anyway, that's a von Neumann game. You don't play to win, you play to exhaust the other opponent that you're fighting with. So anyway, this is what things looked like back there in the 1940s before Dr. von Neumann came up with the idea of storing a computer program in memory. You see these cables right here. See what these ladies are doing. These were the original programmers. They would take that cable out of there and they would plug it to down there, right? They would take this cable there, they'd plug it over there, and that's how you that's how you change the way that the instructions of the computer would execute. And anyway, that's the way things worked back then. And I'm not going to go over this beyond just saying that it's here. And if you want to read about it, go and read about it. In fact, I should probably put that in the other directory I gave you, which is my informatics directory. then everything is in one place. Okay, now let's go back to our programming endeavors. So according to Dr. von Neumann, we have two kinds of memory available to our program when we're writing a program. And this is true for absolutely every kind of programming technology there is, once again, except for quantum computing. So Dr. von Neumann said we have heap memory and we have stack memory. And heap memory is where we put data variables, and stack memory is where we put code. So that means the two kinds of things that we can have here in a program, or we can have data, and data is stored as variables, and every kind of programming paradigm language has some concept of storing data. The other kind of thing we can have in a program is code, right? So we can have instructions, and basically in the highest sort of level of organizing that, here's the kind of instructions we can have. So we can have decision making. So that could be like if, then, case, or switch. We can have loops, and loops could be for or while. It could be other formulations. Those are the big ones. And we can also have reusable blocks of code, which we could call functions or methods, right? Depending in third generation programming paradigm languages like C or Pascal or Watt 4, Watt 5 that were big back in the 70s and 80s, they were called functions. And then in the 1990s, Java and other object-oriented languages came along, and we started calling them methods. And in a object-oriented language, we call our variables data fields. So if it's like Java, for example, we call it a data field. I actually worked, when I was at the IBM lab for a couple of years, I worked on the Smalltalk development team, and Smalltalk was the original. It was the first commercial object-oriented language. Java was based on Smalltalk. So anyway, now our question becomes, how do we get data and code into a Swift program? So we're going to go and work on that. And the good news is we don't have to figure it out by ourselves, because I gave you lots of good detailed lab drills to work on. So let's go and work on that. Let's take a little break though. It's 10 o'clock. We're going till 11 o'clock. Let's give ourselves a break till 10:10, a 15-minute break, and then we'll carry on with this. And if you guys want to work ahead, you have your lab workbook, so you can go and do that. But I'm just going to give you simple examples of each of these basic introductory things. Anyway, we're on break now. Let's resume at, what time is it? Let's resume at 10:15. On break, resume at 10:15. All right, guys, let's carry on with our studies now. It is, well, it's 10:13. All right, I said 10:15, didn't I? I think so. We'll wait another couple of minutes if somebody's still making their coffee. Yeah, okay, we'll pick up in 2 minutes. Ah. All right, guys, it's 10:15. Let's get back to work. Now, we're going to spend the remaining half an hour of our class because we're supposed to end 10 minutes early, right at 10:50. So we'll go till like 10:50. So we're going to spend the remaining 35 minutes of our class just doing Swift code drills. And if you want to get good at a programming language, just do a lot of programming. And I've now given you some material. I've shown you how to run a Swift program, and I've given you my workbook. So just go and write code. That's all there is to it. So let's start a little bit now. The first thing we're going to do to study this example here is you guys can go over to that GitHub, right? So you take that. I found my light pen, by the way. Yeah. So you take this link, which I put right there in your chat box, and then just go over to some browser. And by the way, GitHub is another information system, which is what we're here to study. So just drop that link in there and just copy the code, right? So grab the code right out of there. So select with your left mouse button, click and drag down, right click and copy, and then go over to your replit. You made a replit repository by now. And let's make a new one here. Interesting. This does not appear to be alphabetically sorted. Anyway, just type Swift and search for it. Swift. Well, there you go. Give it some name. And then paste your code in there. So select whatever's there. You can just delete it and then Control V to paste. Now, how do we run our program? Just go up to there. So click on the run button. And what did I do wrong? Let's see now, I did something wrong here. Oh, I see. Do you see that when I copied over from GitHub, I got some stuff there at the bottom that I didn't really want. Just like last week when we were copying that real estate data into Excel, you got some stuff from the website you didn't really want. So just go and clean up from lines 41 and downward to get rid of that stuff which is not code, and go up to the top to see if there's anything else. I don't think so. Let's try running it again. So what is your name? Brown Bear. What a boring name. Brown Bear, let's play a game. I will guess a number between 1 and 100. You will tell me what your number is. If your guess is lower than my guess, you will win a fabulous prize. Let's get started. So what's your guess? I don't know, I'll say 30. Your guess is smaller. Computer guess 36. So this is actually going to be our next assignment, and it's going to be a very simple assignment, but we're going to do it together, but it will put your hands on Swift. So our next assignment now is to take the starter code and to amp it up so it does a few more interesting things. We're just going to, and I'm going to show you, all you basically have to do is follow me in class. It will not be too demanding or complicated. And then this will be an assignment. So let's do this now. We have enough time to get started today, I think. Now, I'm not going to completely give all the instructions right now in terms of due date and where to hand it in, because we'll finish working on this together next week, and then we'll probably make it hand in date the 1 week following after that, because we're going to do it in class, right? It's not even something you need to do by yourself. But I do want to make an assignment, because that way you'll have some kind of mental focus to put your fingers on the keyboard and get to work. So the assignment name is Swift Programming. All right, so what you were to do for this assignment. So starting with the code, which is provided in the Git repository here, right? So starting with this code, And resources, your Replit account. And also the instructional material provided. So instructional lab or lab workbook, I guess we call it. Lab workbook, which is available here. It's also available on GitHub and what do you call it? Google Classroom page. It's also available here by Dropbox. So with this assignment, you're going to take a starter code and you're going to add several additional features to it. I'm going to lead you through it in class. All you have to do is pay attention. And if you cannot pay attention to these simple instructions, well, I'm going to say that I believe you can, because if you're not able to follow simple instructions, you really don't have any hope in the world. Right? One of the big mistakes we make is to tell children that they can do everything, but people cannot do everything. That's the fact. I cannot be an interior designer. I'm colorblind. I can't see the difference between red and green. So I'm not really the guy you want organizing your table place settings at your wedding. And if you don't have a little bit of a feel for IT systems, you're not going to get a job in any professional capacity, right? You say, I want to be a business manager. Okay, good luck being a business manager if you can't handle simple business informatics systems. My wife is a data analyst for Bank of Montreal. That's what she spends her days doing, running SAS and SQL reports, including using Power BI, among other tools. She told me they just fired a second line manager, like a second level manager, somebody with 16 years of experience. They didn't use the term fire. They called them package them out, but it's basically the same thing, because this woman could not handle, right? Managers are expected to be able to deal with complicated reporting systems, and this woman could not do it, right? She said, I just don't understand it. And a discussion was had with her, letting her know that if she couldn't understand it, she was not a good fit for that job. So now she's out. So if you think you're going to be a business manager without being able to deal with information systems, I'm here to tell you your idea about life is wrong. But fortunately, none of that's going to happen for you, because you have the best teacher in the world, which is me, and therefore you're going to be fine. So in this assignment, we will work together in class, right? I'll lead you. You don't have to do it by yourself. To add a few features, to add some features to the starter code, and that's what you'll hand in at the end. All you basically need to do is follow along with my demonstration, get your code to work, and then attach your code to a document and upload it to a Dropbox. That's all you need to do. It'll be due in 2 weeks, which is March the 12th. And upload instructions will be provided next week. All right, so step one, let's study how the basic starter code works. So here, follow with me now, pay attention. And if I'm going too fast or if you don't understand me, then just say, Peter. You don't even have to ask a question. If I just see somebody typing Peter in the chat box, because I know you guys are embarrassed to say in front of your friends you don't understand. Well, that's human nature. That's normal. Just say Peter, and I'll get what that means, and I'll slow down and go over it more carefully. So learning outcomes of this assignment. Continue the exploration we began with Java programming. To understand how programming languages work and how we can use them to model business processes in the real world. Now, in this case, last time we were working with a Monopoly game. Now we're working with a simple gambling type game where a user is given an opportunity to guess a number. And as we find out, we're going to do the same things that real gambling casinos do, which is initially we're going to let our user win a little bit of money. We're going to rig the rules of the game. So the first couple or three times Brown Bear wins, and now he gets all confident, then we get him to bet a lot of money, and now all of a sudden he's going to lose big time. And that's what the casinos do. I know because I'm a real estate agent as well, and I have a client I bought and represented him in the purchase and sale of his last 3 houses. His name is Sav, and once I asked him, so Sav, give me some inside secrets. You know, he's a dealer. He works at the gambling casino. He deals the cards and the roulette wheels and all that stuff. So I said, Sav, just tell me a little secret. How do you win at the casino? Give me the inside scoop. He looked at me and said, Peter, you want to know how you win at a casino? Just don't walk into the place the first time, because as soon as you put your foot in the door, they've got you. They know how to manipulate your psychology, right? They make you kind of feel happy a little bit at the beginning, and then they get you to bet a lot of money, and then all of a sudden you start losing. So we're not really bad people because we're not going to do this in the real world. However, it will be a kind of an interesting example for programming, right? To see how we make this work as a programmatic situation. So let's go and do that. So continuing the exploration of information systems. We began with Java programming and the Monopoly game. You were going to write a Swift program using object-oriented techniques, using classes and object orientation. You will write a Swift application to implement a gambling game. That's your business domain, in this case, a gambling game. Case for this assignment. Any questions? I'm keeping my eye on the chat box. I'm not seeing any questions so far. So when the questions come along, let me know. So what you're to do, or how we're to get started. How do we get started? Let's study the code that we have now, and let's just understand how it works. Let's start by studying our code. and getting it running in your Replit account. So I'm going to use a tool. I'm going to use another editor called Sublime just because it's easier to zoom in and out. So I'm just going to open my Sublime right here. I think I showed this to you when we did Java also. And I've got about another 15 minutes roughly. I know you guys have another class after this. We'll end a bit early so you can go and grab like a little something, some food or some refreshment or something before your next class. But for right now, let's just carry on here. By the way, that is Swift code as well. That's from another class. That's what a class, a Swift class looks like. But we're going to take our code from our GitHub repository. Is there anybody who was not able to get this into here? Is there anybody who has not yet gotten the code out of GitHub and put it in a Replit repository? I'm assuming everybody has done that, yes? Is there anybody who was not able to get your code out of GitHub into Replit? No? Okay, well then we're all together, so that's great. So now I'm going to take this and put it in another editor, and we're just going to play with it a little bit. See, once again, remember when you copy out of GitHub, you're going to get like a little extra stuff down there you don't want, so just delete it out. I'm just opening up my screen capture tool so I can use it to annotate this code for us. There we go. So you see the first portion of our program we do up here, we see some basic interaction between the screen and the user. And this is something we saw in Java. In Java, we used system.out.println and system.in.println to interact with the console. Here, we're printing out, so we're asking them their name, and then we're capturing, we're saying read line, and we're storing. We're using a basic Swift command called let, and we're declaring a memory variable here. So we're making a memory variable called name, and we're using a command called readline. So whatever the user types on the console, that gets stored into a variable called name. And there's a couple of ways to make variables in Swift, just like there are in Java. The big ways we're going to be experimenting with now are let, var, and const. Let, var, and const, and I'll show you examples of where one or the other of them might be more applicable. Here we're using let. And now we're printing out another message. We're prompting the user to give us some information. And just like we did in line 2, we're storing their information in another variable called age. So we have a couple of variables going on now in our memory map. we have name and age. And now line 7, we're just doing a little example here of some program code, which is echoing back out. So you see how we're doing that. We're putting there the variable, which is name, and we're putting it in round brackets. And then we're also having this backslash in front of it. And what's the purpose of the backslash? Well, the backslash plus those 2 round brackets in conjunction with the 2 round brackets are what is do. Let us do a templating, right? So then we put a variable name there, and if you put it in the round brackets, then it'll just get dumped out to the screen. Now look here, this is a kind of an odd thing in Swift. You don't see that in Java or any other language that I know about, but the exclamation mark is something called an optional. And optional is sort of a little bit of a tricky concept in Swift. And I'm not even going to talk about optionals right now. I'm just going to say that if you see the exclamation mark, it is there because of a programming technique called optionals, which Swift has and which you will learn about over when it's the right time for you to learn about it. And now we're just telling the user what a boring name. And this is something casinos actually do, Sav told me. They tell you little things to make you feel put down. So you sort of want to gamble to make yourself feel better. For example, Sav told me that these casinos, you know, they have these girls with the makeup and the tight dresses and all that. And if a single guy walks in, they go over and they start like flirting with him, and they try and get him to go over to the table. And if he says, well, I don't want to go and gamble right now, you know how women do that, right? They can look at a guy to just make him feel like he's a really good for nothing guy. So they sort of just give him a really like eye rolling look and walk away. And that's sort of encourage the guy to go and gamble and spend his money so we can win their approval. So anyway, in this line, we're just sort of trying to do that, but we're also demonstrating this concept of variable, like outputting the variable back out. And now we're calling them by name again, and they're saying, let's play a game. And now we're outputting some instructions, and that's as far as we got up to line 12. So our next part of the program here is once again, we are doing something we did before, which is we're declaring a variable, right? So we declared a variable up here. Right, so we say let name, and now we're saying let random. So many interesting computer programs and games are based on the ability of getting the program to generate some number for us. And here's a Swift formulation. So we're saying int because we want it to be an integer, like a whole number, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. So we're saying int, and then we're calling a method called random. And then this is a Swift formulation in : 1 ... less than 100. So that's generating a number between 1 to 99. And that's the computer's guess. Then we're outputting to user, we're saying, what is your guess? And this is just some comments that I put in there before. But then in line 20, let guess. And now we're specifying the guess should be a string. And we're reading, so read line, and there's your optional again from the command line, from the input where user is interacting in the terminal. And then we're echoing back out to them what their guess was. So now that we have the user's guess as an integer, we can compare it to the program's randomly generated value. And now we're going to learn another thing about programming, which is basic flow of control. So we've already seen that a program has two kinds of things. It has data and it has instructions. And instructions can be decision-making or loops. So here's an example of simple decision-making, which is we say if the guess from user is bigger than computer's guess, then we tell, now we have to modify this a little bit. Now let's see, what was our business rule? I forget. To win, did they have to guess higher or lower? I can't remember what I said there. So let's go and check it again. Now here's your first part of your assignment. You have to work with me on this. And this is the little bit of something we'll do today. And then we'll wrap it up and we'll call it, carry it on again next week. So guys, we talked about this concept of business rules and algorithms in the domain. So this gambling set of rules, this is your business domain. So what is the business process that determines whether the user is the winner or not? So computer is saying if computer guess is smaller, then user wins. So the rule here has to be for user to win, they must guess smaller than the computer did. So how do we implement that as code? How do we make that work in our program? And we've got about another 4 minutes, which should be just enough to figure that out. So if user is smaller, then they win. So in this case, their guess is larger, so computer wins. Put your fingers on the keyboard and type along with me. And if you think this is too complicated, then stop making lazy excuses for yourself. Kick yourself in the butt and just do the damn work. That's all you have to do is type a few lines with me right here. Now here we have another case, because both, and my business students who want to be business people, you have to think about business cases. So here's a business case as well. What are we going to do if they're exactly the same? It won't happen very often, but it will happen sometimes. And in this case, we're just going to ignore this and invite the user to play again, because we don't really have a case, or we could change the rule to say that if they're both equal, then user wins. We could, but I'm going to say let's just throw it away and not process this situation. We won't give computer or user the win in this case. But here, if your guess is smaller, then user wins. And we could even put their name in here as well. All right, so let's take our new updated code and find out if it runs. So I'm going to copy my code back into my REPL and find out if it works. And then we're going to wrap it up in 2 minutes. I know you guys need to go, but we'll finish in 2 minutes. So I'm going to Control A to select all of this and press the delete key to erase it and press Control V to paste. And now I'm going to run. All right, guys, so that's it for right now. Now I'm going to share this Replit as well. And for next week, your homework is to just study the code. Think about it a little bit. If you want, you can take the lab workbook and you can kind of amp it up a little bit. But the next thing we're going to do is set it up. So we do this with objects. We're going to make objects to run this program. So here's going to be our next steps. Actually, no. Well, yeah, I don't want you to see my code all the time because maybe sometimes it's going to be stuff that you're supposed to figure out yourself. But for where do we want to go is as follows. So our goal or some of our features we're going to implement. We want to work with objects. So we want to objectify. We want to implement objects in the starter code. So we want to work with objects, not procedural programming. We want to set it up so the game plays. We want to get the player to repeat playing, right? We want to get the player to play repeatedly and to keep betting more and more money. The goal is to get as much of their money as we can. All right, guys, it is now 10:50, so class is dismissed. Come back next week. We're going to keep doing this. Next week, we're going to do this assignment, and then you can just hand it in, and that's going to be what happens for here. And then we'll go back. We'll do a little bit of work with Power BI. Then we'll do some Python, and then we're going to go back and finish our Java programming with the basis of seeing Swift as well as some Python. Now you'll have a pretty good comprehension of programming. We'll go back to Java and finish the Monopoly game. And that, sadly, I think will get us to the end of the course. I think then we'll be done here. However, you, I hope, will continue to teach yourself technology as you progress through your career. Anyway, class dismissed. See you later. Bye. Go away now. Leave.